Civil rights groups say that they remain unconvinced that Facebook is doing enough to combat hate speech on its platform. Representatives from different civil rights groups and organizations discussed the company's handling of hate speech with Mark Zuckerberg and other Facebook executives on Tuesday. Many of them called the meeting, quote, disappointing, as the company did not have clear responses to their recommendations. This comes as hundreds of businesses stand in solidarity with civil rights groups on their Stop Hate for Profit campaign and continue to pause their advertising on Facebook for the month of July. The social network makes nearly all of its money from ads and raked in more than $70 billion in revenue last year. For more on this, I want to bring in Imran Ahmed. He is the founder and CEO of the Center for Countering Digital Hate. Imran, your organization works to counter hate speech on social media platforms. How does that really work? And is that related to what these civil rights groups have been asking Facebook to do?
Well, Lana, thanks for having me on. We were set up to counter the spread of misinformation and hate in digital spaces, primarily on social media sites. And the way that it's affected and shaped our society and our politics and created really negative outcomes in so many areas. And we identified a common architecture to the networks that are used to proselytize hate and misinformation. So whether it be fake news sites, Facebook groups in which people are undergo a process of hyperpolarization and radicalization. And that's precisely what these civil rights groups have been identifying, the problems that are caused by Facebook, by their own systems, by their business model and the algorithm that underlies it. And the action that they're taking, we've fully endorsed, we support, because actually, one of the mistakes that we always make is we think of users as the customers of these social media companies. We're not their customers, we're their product. And in fact, their customers are the advertisers who get unprecedented insight into our likes, our dislikes, our proclivities, and also access straight into our brains through the newsfeed. And it's only the advertisers that will really be able to get to change their behavior.
Well, I want to also ask you about a new report published by your center that indicates that vaccine refusal and use of social media are in fact linked. Could that be a threat to a potential coronavirus vaccine in the future?
Well, we released a report yesterday about the anti-vax industry, as we've dubbed it. We all know that vaccines are our best way of containing coronavirus, of having some sort of return to normality. What the center uncovered was an industry undermining that vaccine before it can even be developed. And at the heart of which are social media companies who both power and profit from that misinformation. So what we found is that people who use social media more so than they use traditional media are much more likely to be vaccine hesitant. That is, to either say that they are unsure that they definitely won't vaccinate, or they probably won't vaccinate. And the rates that we saw in the United States are really worrying. 41% of the respondents to the YouGov survey said that they were vaccine hesitant. Now, if you think that we actually need 82%, so we need 8 in 10 people to take the vaccine or to have natural immunity for us to be able to contain the disease. If 4 in 10 people aren't going to take the vaccine, well, that's really problematic.
Yeah, especially for the people who don't have the option because of perhaps being immunocompromised or having another reason why they are unable to take the vaccine. It's on all of us to do what we can. Well, Imran, we know that we can't necessarily trust what we see on social media to be, in fact, true, but are there repercussions for people writing and sharing lies on social media? It seems like all the time we're seeing things that we know aren't true or suspect aren't true, but it doesn't seem like there's anything that happens.
Well, that was the precise issue that we were set up to try and deal with, which are that right now, malignant behavior online, the spreading of misinformation and hate, is consequence-free, both for the people that are doing so and also for the platforms themselves. And let's be straight. Our contention is that the social media companies profit from that misinformation and hate. We know, for example, that they take adverts from anti-vaxxers which are targeted at people who might be interested in their ideology. But we also know that they benefit from contention on their platform, because what keeps our attention? It's a good ding dong, a fight. And what they're looking for is to keep us engaged on that platform for as long as possible, so more and more ads can be served up to us. And that's why these aren't fair playing fields. Fact is actually irrelevant to them. What's more important is whether or not something is controversial, engaging, and therefore keeps us on there. And even though they know that, and we've seen that from the civil rights audit that's been released today by Facebook, that even though they're fundamentally aware of the problems created by their platforms, they've been unwilling to move to date. And again, that's why the Stop Hate for Profit campaign is so powerful, because what it's saying is that big companies, big civil society organizations are turning around and going, sorry, this has to stop. You have to do something about it. And it's only that, I feel, that may start to reverse some of the problems that they've been causing, including this really worrying statistic about vaccine hesitancy.
Well, and also one other thing that your group really is focused on, which is a campaign to stop the spread of racist misinformation. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, one of the ways in which people spread misinformation is through sites which pretend to be news sites, but actually are putting out a very structured, hyper-polarized view of the world. And these fake news sites, as we dub them, we target with a campaign called Stop Funding Fake News. And all we do is we show advertisers their brands appearing next to headlines that they would be horrified by. And this campaign's been incredibly effective in persuading lots and lots of brands, lots of charities, lots of different organizations to pull their advertising from a variety of sites that push misinformation and hate. I think most recently we had a success in the United States with Zero Hedge. We've had a success in the last few weeks with sites in Europe, like Voice of Europe, and there's a network of these around the world which often share the same ideology, share the same often pro-Russian stance. And what we've been doing is persuading advertisers. Actually, what happened most recently was Google themselves have started completely removing these sites from the Google Ads platform and saying, we will no longer fund sites that preach misinformation and hate. And that's a big step forwards for us. We're very excited about it. But again, this is about getting big brands, companies to take the action, because in the end, it's them that are the customers. We're simply the product to them. And it's been really heartening to see both the success of Stop Funding Fake News, which we had a bit of a ding-dong with Donald Trump Jr. about, but also the Stop Hate for Profit campaign, which appears to be making real change.
Well, Imran Ahmed, trying to fight against misinformation and lies on social media, it is a monumental task, and I wish you well. Thank you for joining us.